The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the UES Titan. Admiral Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the distant lights of the Kepler 442 system grow larger on the main screen. This was supposed to be a good day. Today, humanity would meet another intelligent species for the first time. Distance to target system? Jake asked his navigation officer. 2 hours at current speed, sir, came the reply. Jake nodded. Behind the Titan, the smaller ship UES Harmony followed at a safe distance. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded that vessel with her crew of 200 diplomats, scientists, and translators. Their job was to make friends with the aliens called the Zephyrian Collective. For 6 months, Earth had been receiving strange signals from this system. The signals were clearly artificial, clearly intelligent. After weeks of work, human scientists had decoded enough to understand basic concepts. The aliens seemed peaceful. They had sent mathematical formulas and star charts. Everything pointed to a friendly first meeting. Commander Alex Stone sat at the weapons station, but his systems were powered down. Orders were clear: no aggressive actions unless directly attacked. Earth wanted this meeting to go perfectly. "Sir, we're getting new signals from the aliens," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. "Put it on speakers," Jake ordered. Strange sounds filled the bridge. They were musical, almost like singing, but with electronic tones mixed in. The universal translator worked slowly, picking out familiar concepts. "They're welcoming us," Amy said with excitement. "They say they've been waiting to meet us for a long time." Jake smiled. "Send our response. Tell them we come in peace and want to learn about each other." But something was wrong. Deep in the Zephyrian command ship, Strategic Coordinator Veltar stared at readings that made no sense. The human ships looked primitive from the outside, but their energy signatures were completely alien. Their engines worked on principles that Zephyrian science couldn't understand. "These readings cannot be correct," Veltar said to his second-in-command. "No species develops faster than light travel without following the standard progression." Intelligence Officer Kessan pointed to another screen. "Look at their weapon systems. They appear to be kinetic projectile launchers, but the energy buildup suggests something much more dangerous." Veltar's 4 eyes widened in fear. In Zephyrian history, every species that developed unusual technology had become a threat to galactic peace. Their rigid thinking couldn't accept that humans might simply be different, not dangerous. "They're hiding their true capabilities," Veltar decided. "This is a trick. They want us to think they're peaceful while they study our defenses. Should we try to communicate further?" Kessan asked. "No. We know what happens when aggressive species gain access to advanced civilizations. We must act first." The Zephyrian warships powered up their weapons. On the Titan's bridge, warning lights suddenly flashed red. "Sir, the alien ships are targeting us," Alex shouted. Jake couldn't believe it. "Are you sure?" "Check again." Confirmed. "Multiple weapon locks. They're charging some kind of energy weapons." "Send a message immediately," Jake ordered. "Tell them we're peaceful." There must be some mistake. But before Amy could send anything, space erupted in deadly light. The Zephyrian attack was swift and merciless. Beams of pure energy struck the UES Harmony first. Captain Lisa Hayes had only seconds to realize what was happening before her ship exploded. In a ball of superheated gas, 200 lives ended instantly. "Lisa!" Jake screamed, watching his friend's ship die. The alien beams turned toward human colonies in the outer system. The mining station on Kepler 442c had 3,000 people. The farming domes on the fourth planet held 20,000 more. The research outpost near the gas giant contained families, children, people who had never held a weapon. Alex watched his instruments in horror as the colonies disappeared one by one. "They're destroying everything, sir. Everything with human life signs." Jake felt something cold and terrible growing in his chest. These weren't soldiers dying. These weren't people who had chosen to fight. They were families, children, people who came here to build new homes among the stars. "How many?" he asked quietly. 50,000 dead, sir. Maybe more." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Jake stared at the screen where Lisa's ship had been. His hands slowly formed fists. "Sir, what are your orders?" Alex asked. Jake turned around. His face looked different now. Harder. The peaceful diplomat was gone, replaced by something older and more dangerous. "Power up all weapons," he said in a voice like ice. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them we need every ship, every gun, every soldier they can spare. Sir, they have superior numbers and technology, Alex warned. I don't care, Jake replied. They killed Lisa. They killed families, children, people who never hurt anyone. He walked to the center of the bridge and looked at his crew. They were all young, all chosen for this mission because they were smart and peaceful, but he could see something changing in their eyes too. I want you all to understand something, Jake said. Those aliens made a choice today. They chose to murder innocent people without even trying to talk. They chose to commit genocide against people who offered friendship. The crew listened in absolute silence. Now, they're going to learn something about humans that they should have tried to understand before they started shooting. We don't start fights, but by God, we finish them. Jake turned back to the main screen where Zephyrian warships continued their systematic destruction. They wanted to see what humans do when threatened with extinction, he said softly. Signal Earth. Tell President Lewis that first contact has failed. Tell her that the Zephyrian Collective has declared war on humanity. He paused, watching another human outpost disappear in flame. And tell her that Admiral Jake Morrison requests permission to show these aliens exactly why that was the worst mistake they could possibly make. In the depths of space, the Titan's weapons came online for the first time. The ship's computers began calculating firing solutions while Jake waited for Earth's response. The peaceful exploration mission was over. The war for humanity's survival had begun. Far away on Earth, emergency signals reached the Global Defense Council. Within minutes, President Karen Lewis was reading reports that would change human history forever. The age of human innocence in the galaxy was ending. The age of human fury was about to begin. The emergency session of the Global Defense Council began at 3 a.m, Earth time. President Karen Lewis sat at the head of a table surrounded by generals, admirals, and defense ministers from every human nation. The holographic display in the center showed the Kepler 442 system, where red markers indicated destroyed human settlements. How many confirmed dead? Karen asked. General Nick Carter, head of the Terran Defense Force, checked his tablet. 53,000 civilians. Complete loss of the diplomatic vessel Harmony. The Titan is damaged but operational. Karen closed her eyes. 53,000 people. Families who had left Earth to build new lives. Children who would never grow up. All killed in less than an hour by aliens who never even tried to communicate. What do we know about their military capabilities? She asked. Admiral Morrison's initial report suggests they have superior numbers and energy weapons that can penetrate our shields, Nick replied. However, our weapons appear to have surprised them. Dr. Rachel Morris, Earth's chief xenobiologist, spoke up from her seat. Ma'am, I've been analyzing the attack pattern. The aliens targeted civilian populations first, then military assets. This suggests they either don't understand our military structure, or they're trying to cause maximum psychological damage. Karen stood up and walked to the display. The red markers seemed to burn in the air. Recommendations? She asked. We have 3 options, Nick said. Retreat and abandon the outer colonies. Negotiate from a position of weakness, or mobilize everything we have and fight. What are the odds of victory if we fight? Nick was quiet for a moment. Unknown. We've never fought an interstellar war before, but Admiral Morrison seems to think we have advantages they don't expect. Karen thought about the children who died today. She thought about the families torn apart by alien weapons. She thought about Lisa Hayes, who had volunteered for the mission because she believed in peace between species. Issue Directive 7, she said quietly. The room fell silent. Directive 7 was the complete mobilization of Earth's military forces. It hadn't been used since the resource wars 50 years ago. Ma'am, are you certain? Nick asked. Karen turned to face the council. They murdered 50,000 innocent people without provocation. They destroyed our first attempt at peaceful contact. They've shown us exactly what they think of human life. She walked back to her chair but remained standing. I will not allow genocide to be committed against our species. Mobilize every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have. Send them to Admiral Morrison. If these aliens want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Back in the Kepler 442 system, Admiral Jake Morrison watched his damage control teams work on the Titan's wounded hull. The alien energy weapons had burned through their outer armor, but the ship remained functional. More importantly, Jake had learned something crucial during the attack. Dr. Rachel Morris worked frantically in the ship's science lab, analyzing wreckage from destroyed Zephyrian drone fighters. What she found changed everything. "Admiral, you need to see this," she called over the comm system. Jake found her standing over a collection of alien metal fragments, her scanner displaying energy readings that made no sense. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" he asked. "The remains of their shield generator. Look at these burn marks." She pointed to areas where human plasma bolts had struck. "Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons based on standard galactic technology. But our weapons use a completely different principle." Jake leaned closer. "Meaning what?" "Meaning their shields don't work against us. They can deflect their own energy weapons perfectly, but our plasma cannons burn right through them like they don't exist." Jake felt his first moment of hope since the battle began. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but it's also more specialized. They've spent thousands of years perfecting defenses against weapons that work like theirs. They never encountered anything that works like ours." Jake activated his comm system. "Commander Stone, report to the science lab immediately." When Alex arrived, Jake showed him Rachel's findings. "This changes our tactical situation completely," Alex said, studying the data. "If their shields don't work against our weapons, then their numerical advantage is less important." "Exactly," Jake agreed. "But we need to be smart about this. They still have more ships than we do." 3 hours later, Jake got his chance to test the theory. A squadron of Zephyrian fighters approached the Titan, confident that their shields would protect them from primitive human weapons. Captain Ben Rodriguez led the Titan's fighter wing in the counterattack. His 12 fighters faced 60 alien craft, but Ben had advantages the aliens didn't understand. "Remember," Ben told his pilots over the radio, "their computers can't predict what we're going to do if we don't follow standard attack patterns. Be creative, be unpredictable, and trust your instincts." The battle was unlike anything in recorded history. The Zephyrian pilots flew perfect formations, executing textbook maneuvers that their computers had calculated for maximum efficiency. They expected the humans to respond with equally logical tactics. Instead, Lieutenant Amy Foster rolled her fighter upside down and attacked from below while spinning. Pilot Jerry Campbell flew straight at an enemy ship, then dove under it at the last second while firing. Sarah Johnson used her fighter's superior maneuverability to fly in spirals that confused the alien targeting systems. The Zephyrians had never seen anything like it. Their computers couldn't calculate responses to tactics that seemed to make no sense. One by one, their fighters fell to human weapons that burned through their shields like paper. "This is impossible," Strategic Coordinator Veltar said as he watched the battle from his command ship. 12 primitive fighters just destroyed 60 of our advanced craft." Intelligence Officer Kesson checked his instruments again. "Sir, their pilots appear to be making tactical decisions in real time without computer assistance. They're using intuition and instinct instead of calculation. That's impossible. No species can fly effectively without computer guidance." "Apparently humans can, sir." Veltar stared at the tactical display. Everything he knew about warfare suggested the humans should have been destroyed hours ago. Instead, they were winning battles against superior odds using methods that defied logic. Back on the Titan, Jake watched the fighter battle with growing confidence. His people were adapting faster than he had dared hope. "Sir," Alex reported, "Earth Command is sending reinforcements. Every available ship is being redirected to our position. How long until they arrive?" 72 hours for the first wave. Admiral Carter is personally commanding a fleet of 200 ships." Jake nodded. In 3 days, the real war would begin. But now he knew something the aliens didn't realize yet. Humans didn't just fight with superior technology or overwhelming numbers. They fought with something the Zephyrians had forgotten how to use: the ancient, evolved instincts of a species that had clawed its way to the top of its planet's food chain through 10 million years of warfare. The aliens had advanced computers and perfect weapons. But humans had something more dangerous: the ability to think like warriors instead of machines. The war was just beginning, but Jake Morrison was no longer afraid of the outcome. Strategic Coordinator Veltar paced the command deck of his flagship, his 4 eyes studying battle reports that made no logical sense. In the past 48 hours, human forces had won 17 engagements against superior Zephyrian numbers. The aliens were beginning to understand they had made a terrible mistake. "Show me the tactical analysis again," Veltar ordered. Intelligence Officer Kessan activated the holographic display. The humans are using tactics we've never encountered. They ignore standard combat doctrine completely. Their ships perform maneuvers that should destroy them from stress. But somehow they survive. Veltar watched recordings of human fighters diving through asteroid fields at speeds that should have killed their pilots. He saw human destroyers ramming Zephyrian cruisers using their own ships as weapons. Most disturbing of all, he watched human crews continue fighting even when their ships were critically damaged and should have surrendered. What kind of species fights like this? He asked. A species that evolved from predators, came a new voice. Veltar turned to see Chief Researcher Quindal, the fleet's expert on alien biology. The elderly Zephyrian looked troubled. Explain, Veltar commanded. I've been studying their behavior patterns. The humans didn't evolve like us. We developed intelligence to avoid conflict and find peaceful solutions. They developed intelligence to become better at warfare. Fighting isn't just something they do, it's what they are. Kessan pulled up new data. The humans call it combat instinct. They make tactical decisions faster than our computers can calculate responses. They seem to predict our moves before we make them. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Titan, Admiral Jake Morrison was learning to use humanity's greatest weapon, unpredictability. Commander Stone, I want you to do something that sounds completely crazy, Jake said. Alex looked up from his tactical station. Sir? I want you to calculate an attack run on their command ship, but I want you to plan it like you're completely insane. Alex smiled. In the past 2 days, he had learned that completely insane was often the best way to fight aliens who thought too logically. How insane are we talking, sir? I want you to plan an attack that violates every rule of space combat. I want their computers to refuse to believe we would be stupid enough to try it. 20 minutes later, Alex had a plan that would have gotten him court-martialed in peacetime. It involved using the Titan's engines to deliberately destabilize, then riding the explosion like a wave while firing everything they had at the alien flagship. This has a 30% chance of destroying us, Alex warned. And a 90% chance of destroying them, Jake replied. Do it. The attack was beautiful in its impossibility. The Titan accelerated directly at the Zephyrian command ship, then shut down its engines at exactly the wrong moment. The ship tumbled end over end, spinning wildly through space while Jake's gunners fired with perfect accuracy despite the chaos. The Zephyrian gunners couldn't target a ship that was essentially exploding while shooting back at them. Their computers had no tactical response for an enemy that used controlled disasters as weapons. The Titan's plasma cannons burned through the alien ship's shields and hull, causing critical damage before Jake's people regained control and flew away. That was impossible, Veltar said, watching his flagship burn. Impossible for us, Quindal corrected. Perfectly normal for them. They don't think like us. They think like, he paused, searching for the right word, like ancient warriors. But the real shock came when Commander Sam Mitchell led a boarding action against a damaged Zephyrian cruiser. His team of 20 Marines approached a ship designed to house 2,000 crew members. By all logic, it should have been suicide. Sam and his people didn't care about logic. They breached the hull using explosives that filled the ship with smoke and confusion. Then they moved through the corridors like ghosts, using human senses that had evolved for hunting in darkness. The Zephyrians, who had perfect night vision and advanced sensors, somehow couldn't track enemies who moved by instinct instead of technology. Where are they? Demanded the Zephyrian ship captain as his sensors showed nothing. His question was answered when Sam appeared behind him, having crawled through ventilation shafts that were too small for Zephyrian bodies but perfect for humans. Right here, Sam said, pointing his rifle at the captain's head. The boarding action took 40 minutes. 20 human Marines captured a ship with 2,000 alien crew members, using nothing but standard weapons and tactics that the Zephyrians had never seen before. Dr. Ellen Price, working in the captured ship's computer core, made discoveries that changed everything humans knew about their enemy. Admiral, you need to hear this, she called Jake over a secure channel. What did you find, Doctor? The Zephyrians aren't evil. They're scared. Their entire culture is based on avoiding conflict. They've been peaceful for so long that they've forgotten how to handle aggressive species. Jake frowned. That doesn't excuse genocide. No, it doesn't, but it explains why they're losing. They have superior weapons and technology, but they don't have the warrior instincts we developed over millions of years of evolution. They're trying to fight a war with the mindset of scientists, not soldiers. This revelation reached Earth just as the second wave of human reinforcements arrived. Lieutenant Colonel Greg Baker commanded a squadron of fast attack ships designed for hit-and-run warfare. His orders were simple: make the aliens afraid to leave their home system. Greg's squadron attacked Zephyrian supply lines using tactics that would have been considered war crimes if used against humans. They struck without warning, destroyed everything they could reach, and disappeared before the aliens could respond. They operated in conditions that should have killed them, pushing their ships beyond safe limits because humans were willing to risk everything to protect their species. "They're like ghosts," complained a Zephyrian patrol captain after the 7th supply convoy was destroyed. "They appear from nowhere, strike with impossible precision, then vanish." "How are they finding our ships?" asked his second-in-command. "They're not finding us. They're predicting where we'll be. They think like hunters." Back on Earth, President Karen Lewis received reports that filled her with both pride and horror. Her people were winning a war against impossible odds, but they were doing it by becoming something she barely recognized. "Are we still human?" she asked General Nick Carter. Nick considered the question carefully. "We're what humans become when our survival is threatened. This is what we were before civilization taught us to be peaceful." Karen looked at footage of human Marines fighting through alien ships with an efficiency that terrified even her. "And when the war is over? What happens to people who have remembered how to be monsters?" "That's a question for after we win," Nick replied. "Right now, being monsters is the only thing keeping our species alive." The war was changing both sides. The Zephyrians were learning to fear a species they had thought primitive. The humans were learning to use instincts they had forgotten they possessed. Neither side yet understood that the real battle was just beginning. The Zephyrian High Council met in emergency session as reports flooded in from across their territory. 12 star systems had fallen to human forces in the past month. What had begun as a simple preemptive strike against a primitive species had become a nightmare that threatened the very existence of their civilization. "How many ships have we lost?" asked Prime Coordinator Zeleth, the supreme leader of the Zephyrian collective. Strategic Coordinator Veltar consulted his data tablet with trembling hands. 60% of our fleet, Prime Coordinator. The humans are destroying us faster than we can build replacements. This is impossible. We have 50 times their numbers. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs." "Yes, Prime Coordinator, but they fight like..." Veltar struggled to find the right words. "Like they have nothing left to lose. Every human ship battles as if it contains the last survivors of their species." Chief Researcher Quindal stepped forward. "Prime Coordinator, I believe I understand what we're facing. The humans are not just fighting a war. They're fighting for the right to exist. This activates instincts in them that we eliminated from our own species thousands of years ago." Zeleth's 4 eyes focused on the researcher. "Explain." "We evolved to avoid conflict through superior technology and negotiation. But humans evolved to win conflicts through superior aggression and adaptability. When threatened with extinction, they become something we cannot comprehend or defeat." Meanwhile, in Earth orbit, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Vengeance. The massive battleship represented everything humanity had learned about war in the past 6 months. It was faster, more heavily armed, and more resilient than any ship humans had ever built. "Final count on the fleet?" Jake asked. 500 ships ready for the assault on the Zephyrian home system, reported his new tactical officer, Commander Lisa Park. "Every available vessel in human space." Jake nodded. The attack on the Zephyrian home system would end the war one way or another. Intelligence reports suggested the aliens had assembled their remaining 50,000 ships to defend their homeworld. The odds were still 100 to 1 against humanity. "Any word from the diplomatic corps?" Jake asked. The Zephyrians refused to negotiate. They say they cannot accept surrender from a species they consider too dangerous to exist. Jake felt the familiar cold anger that had kept him fighting for 6 months. The aliens still thought humans were the problem. Even facing extinction, they couldn't understand that they had started this war by murdering innocent people. "Then we finish it," Jake said quietly. Dr. Kevin Ross, the fleet's chief scientist, made a discovery that changed everything just hours before the final battle. He was analyzing damage reports from previous engagements when he noticed something impossible. "Admiral, I need to show you something that shouldn't exist," Kevin said over the comm. Jake found him in the science lab, staring at holographic displays of human ships that had been damaged and repaired during the war. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked, evolution in real time. "Look at these weapon modifications, these engine improvements, these armor adaptations. They should have taken years to develop, but our ships are growing and adapting during combat." Jake studied the data. Ships that had survived multiple battles showed improvements that seemed to develop on their own. "How is this possible?" "I think it's the crews," Kevin said. "Humans under extreme stress are pushing their technology beyond designed limits and discovering new capabilities. We're not just using our ships, we're improving them through sheer desperation and ingenuity." "Are you saying our technology is evolving because we're fighting for our lives?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. The Zephyrians built perfect machines that always work the same way. We built adaptable machines that grow stronger when we need them to." The final battle began when Jake's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system. 50,000 alien ships waited in perfect formations around their homeworld, ready to fight the decisive engagement of the war. "All ships," Jake broadcast to his fleet, "remember why we're here. They murdered Lisa Hayes and 50,000 innocent people. They tried to commit genocide against our entire species. Today we show them the price of underestimating humanity." The battle was unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships dove through Zephyrian formations like wolves attacking sheep, using tactics that bordered on suicidal but somehow worked. The aliens tried to respond with logical, calculated maneuvers, but humans didn't fight logically. Captain Ben Rodriguez led a squadron of fighters straight into the center of the alien formation, drawing fire from thousands of ships while human bombers attacked from unexpected angles. Lieutenant Amy Foster piloted her damaged fighter on a collision course with an enemy dreadnought, ejecting at the last second while her ship's reactor overloaded and destroyed the larger vessel. Commander Sam Mitchell landed his Marines on the surface of the Zephyrian homeworld itself, leading urban combat operations against defenders who had never experienced ground warfare. His people moved through alien cities like phantoms, using human adaptability to turn every building into a fortress. But the most crucial action happened when Commander Lisa Park led a special operations team into the heart of the Zephyrian capital. Her mission was to capture the High Council and force a surrender before the entire planet was destroyed. Lisa and her team of 12 soldiers fought through defenses designed to stop armies. They used human stealth, human cunning, and human determination to reach targets that should have been impossible to assault. "Prime Coordinator Zeleth," Lisa said when she finally stood in the alien leader's chambers, her weapon trained on the creature who had ordered humanity's extinction. "You are the humans," Zeleth said with what sounded like wonder. "You are so much smaller than our projections indicated." "Small but effective," Lisa replied. "Your war is over. Surrender now and your people live. Continue fighting and your entire species dies with your homeworld." Zeleth looked at the human soldier with new understanding. "We made a terrible mistake, didn't we?" "Yes, you did. You tried to murder an entire species based on fear and incomplete information. Now you get to live with the consequences." In space above the planet, the Zephyrian fleet was collapsing. Human ships that should have been destroyed hours ago continued fighting with impossible determination. Every time the aliens thought they had won a battle, more human vessels appeared, often damaged but still deadly. Admiral Jake Morrison watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction. The impossible was happening. 500 human ships were defeating 50,000 alien vessels through superior tactics, unbreakable morale, and technology that literally grew stronger during combat. "Sir, we're receiving a surrender signal from the planet," reported his communications officer. Jake looked at the display showing burning alien ships and the blue-green world that had sent killers to murder human families. "Acknowledge the surrender," he ordered, "but maintain combat readiness. This war isn't over until every Zephyrian weapon is powered down." The Battle of Zephyria lasted 18 hours. When it ended, humanity had achieved the impossible, complete victory against overwhelming odds. But Jake Morrison felt no joy as he stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by the wreckage of the largest space battle in galactic history. They had won. But the cost of victory was a changed humanity that would never again be the peaceful species that had first reached for the stars. The question now was what they would do with the terrible power they had discovered within themselves. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in what had once been the throne room of the Zephyrian High Council. The alien architecture was beautiful but strange, with curved walls that seemed to flow like water and light that came from everywhere and nowhere. Before him knelt Prime Coordinator Zeleth and the surviving members of the alien government. "You have won," Zeleth said, his voice carrying defeat and something that might have been relief. "Our fleet is destroyed. Our defenses are gone. We await your judgment." Jake looked at the alien leader who had ordered the deaths of 50,000 humans. Part of him wanted revenge. Part of him wanted to make the Zephyrians pay for every life they had taken. But another part, the part that remembered who humans had been before this war, whispered something different. "Do you understand what you did wrong?" Jake asked. Zeleth raised his 4 eyes to meet Jake's gaze. "We attacked without understanding. We killed innocent beings because we were afraid of what you might become. We committed the very crime we sought to prevent. And what should happen to species that commit genocide?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Every human in the room expected Jake to order the aliens' extinction. It would have been justice. It would have been what the Zephyrians deserved. "We should die," Zeleth said quietly. "We understand this. We took innocent lives based on fear and ignorance. The galaxy will be safer without us." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that no one expected. "No," he said. Commander Lisa Park, standing beside him, looked surprised. "Sir?" I said no. "We didn't fight this war to become killers. We fought to protect innocent life. That includes theirs." Jake walked closer to Zeleth. "Your species made a mistake. A terrible, costly mistake that killed thousands of my people. But if we kill you for making that mistake, then we become the very thing you feared we were." Dr. Patricia Bell, who had arrived with the diplomatic corps, stepped forward. "Admiral, the psychological profiles suggest the Zephyrians are genuinely remorseful. They appear to be a species that evolved to avoid conflict but made a catastrophic error in judgment." Jake nodded. "I've read your reports, Doctor. The question now is what we do with a species that tried to commit genocide, but genuinely regrets it." Captain Susan Clark, the new head of the diplomatic corps, activated her tablet. "Sir, I've been working with Zephyrian representatives on a framework for coexistence. With your permission, I'd like to present it." Jake gestured for her to continue. "The Zephyrians have superior technology in many areas: medicine, environmental science, energy generation. Humans have superior adaptability, tactical thinking, and what we've learned to call combat innovation. Both species have capabilities the other needs." Zeleth looked up hopefully. "You would consider alliance with us? After what we did?" "Not alliance," Jake corrected. "Integration. Your species joins the Terran Federation as equal partners, not conquered subjects. You help us explore the galaxy peacefully. We help you learn to defend yourselves when peace isn't possible." The silence that followed was profound. Intelligence Officer Kessan, who had been present during the original attack, spoke carefully. "Admiral Morrison, why would you offer us equality when you could simply take everything we have?" Jake thought about Lisa Hayes, who had died trying to make peace. He thought about the 50,000 civilians who had been murdered without warning. He thought about what humanity had become during 6 months of total war. "Because someone has to choose to be better," he said finally. "You started this war because you were afraid of what humans might become. If we end it with genocide, then you were right to be afraid. But if we end it with justice and mercy, then maybe both our species can become something better than we were." Dr. Patricia Bell stepped forward with her final analysis. "Admiral, the post-war studies show something remarkable. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't our technology or our tactics. It was our capacity for both devastating warfare and profound compassion. We can be terrible in war, but we can also choose to be noble in peace." Zeleth slowly stood, his movements careful and respectful. "You offer us life when we deserve death. You offer us partnership when we earned only conquest. How can we repay such mercy?" "By helping us build something better than either of our species could create alone," Jake replied. "By proving that intelligent life can learn from its mistakes and choose cooperation over conflict." Captain Susan Clark activated the holographic display showing the proposed integration framework. The Terran Federation would become a multi-species alliance dedicated to peaceful exploration and mutual defense. Zephyrian technology would help us explore the galaxy more safely. Human tactical expertise would help defend against species that might not be as reasonable as we're choosing to be. And if we encounter other hostile species? Asked Strategic Coordinator Veltar. Jake's expression hardened slightly. Then they'll learn the same lesson you did. Humans don't start fights, but we finish them. And now we'll have Zephyrian technology to help us finish them more efficiently. 6 months later, Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of New Harmony Station, the first joint human Zephyrian research facility. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see human and alien scientists working together on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. Dr. Kevin Ross approached with a report that made Jake smile for the first time since the war began. Admiral, the Joint Medical Research Team has developed treatments that will save thousands of lives per year on both human and Zephyrian worlds. The engineering teams have designed ships that are both more efficient and more survivable. The agricultural specialists have created food sources that can support colonies in previously uninhabitable systems. Jake nodded, watching a young human researcher explain something to an elderly Zephyrian scientist, both of them excited about their shared discoveries. Any word from Earth about our integration progress? Jake asked. President Lewis sends her congratulations. The Zephyrian worlds have voted unanimously to join the Federation. They're contributing their entire remaining fleet to our defense forces. Jake walked to the observation deck, where he could see the construction of the first generation of integrated warships. They combined human tactical innovation with Zephyrian advanced technology, creating vessels that could both explore peacefully and fight effectively when necessary. Zeleth approached from behind, moving with the quiet grace his species had evolved over millennia. Admiral Morrison, I have a question that has troubled me since our surrender. Jake turned to face the former enemy leader who had become a trusted partner. Ask it. How did your species learn to be both warriors and peacemakers? How do you balance such contradictory natures? Jake looked out at the ships being built by former enemies working as partners. We learned that being capable of terrible things doesn't mean you have to do them. We learned that the same strength that makes you dangerous in war can make you merciful in peace. Most importantly, we learned that the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemies, it's turning them into friends. Zeleth followed Jake's gaze to the construction bays where the future was being built. Your species is remarkable, Admiral. You fight like demons when threatened but rule like angels when victorious. We're not angels, Jake corrected. We're just humans. And humans at their best try to be better than they have to be. The first joint exploration mission launched 3 days later. The ship carried both human and Zephyrian crew members, heading out to make contact with other species in a galaxy that was about to learn something new. They would learn that sometimes the most dangerous species could also be the most capable of growth, mercy, and wisdom. They would learn that humanity was not here just to talk, but when forced to fight, they fought for principles worth dying for. And when they chose peace, they built something worth living for. The age of human expansion had begun not with conquest, but with the radical idea that former enemies could become family. In the depths of space, Admiral Jake Morrison's warning echoed through subspace communications to species across the galaxy. We come in peace, seeking friendship and cooperation. But if you threaten innocent life, you will discover why that was the worst mistake you could possibly make. It was a message of hope, wrapped in a promise of protection. And the galaxy listened.